Hello, I'm Jonathan Bowman-Perks and welcome back to my favourite time of the week. And I'm very lucky to have the late Lord Mayor of London, Peter Estlin. And Peter has had an incredible career. I'm just going to read out some of the things Peter's involved in at the moment. Chair of Future.now, which we're going to talk about in the second part. Late Lord Mayor of the City of London Corporation. A non-executive independent member of the Audit Committee of the Treasury. Founder patron of Onside Youth Zone. A trustee for Trust for the London Institute. We're going on then to trustee at Magdalen College. Governor of King Edward's Witley. In the Worshipful Company of Educators, court assistant to the Worshipful Company of Ironmongers, junior warden in the Worshipful Company of Chartered Accountants. And then we go back on to the days when Peter and I met at Barclays, where you were a CFO at Barclays and have been a senior advisor for some years with them. And there's a variety of things in your time as a partner at Deloitte as well. Peter, it's one heck of a career. You said to me earlier when we were chatting that how you divided those different things up. Just briefly explain how you divide up.
Today, I mean, my world largely revolves around four pillars: sort of family and the personal side. Secondly, my continuation of my civic career. So having been late Lord Mayor, one continues on in that regard. Thirdly, my business career. We all need to sort of, put some food on the table. So, I mean, doing it both for sustenance, but also I actually enjoy quite a lot of what I do, both at the Treasury, and I'm sort of transitioning from Barclays to another institution at the moment. And then fourthly, and arguably what really ignites my passion is around sort of inclusion, and particularly whether it's Trust for London or Future.now or Onside Youth Zones, those areas where you can use your skills and help make a difference.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in part two in the extra bit. But next, really, the interesting thing I have from you is who inspired you? I mean, here you are, we're similar ages, but you've filled your life already and continue to do so. You're accelerating, not slowing down. Who was it that inspired you all those years ago? Where did it come from?
So my mother was ill for quite a while and then died when I was quite young, so I went to a boarding school, and that obviously created a sort of a home environment. But I was fortunate enough to sort of thrive in it, and I became head boy. And I met the then Lord Mayor of London, Sir Kenneth Cork, who, on meeting him, sort of quick chat, said, well, what are you going to do after school? And I actually had to admit to him I hadn't really got any idea. I was good at maths, not very good at languages, liked a bit of science. So he said, well, why don't you become an accountant? And why not? Because he was an accountant. So I did actually go into accountancy. But cheekily, while we were having the conversation, I also said to him, how does one get your job? And
how old were you then?
I was 17.
17.
So he said, well, maybe one day you'll be Lord Mayor. But he invited me up to Mansion House for a cup of tea. So about 3 or 4 weeks later, I did. And in some ways, it was that seed that sort of sits there and sort of gnaws away in a positive sense.
Yeah,
so he was definitely one of the first people who sort of inspired me.
And along with inspiration comes humility and modesty. And we, of course, ego is the enemy. We can get carried away with all the titles and the roles and things we do, but keeping your feet planted firmly in the ground. We were chatting earlier about the mistakes we've both made. And gosh, I've made, I think, probably way more than you've made. But as a leader, as you were growing up, what particular moment stuck with you where you weren't quite getting your leadership style right? You weren't a truly inspiring leader that you are now. And how did that shape who you are now?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, we don't stop learning. So, I continue to make mistakes. And I think having people around you who are prepared to tell you when you're making mistakes is really important.
Truth tellers.
But a chap called Ian McCusker, who was a partner I worked for in Deloitte at the time, sat down with me when I was a young manager, and he fundamentally said, look, you're ambitious, you've got a lot of skill, but at times you've got too much of it in the wrong places, and you're at risk of not taking people with you. And if you really want to manage and lead, managing is about getting people to do tasks, but leading is about inspiring people. And if you really want to succeed, and therefore you really want to lead, you've got to be much more cognizant of that element of EQ, as we would call it today.
Yeah.
And that's really sat with me throughout my life. I mean, I would say, I'm naturally still quite highly task orientated. I've probably got more of different sides of the brain, whichever way around it is. But surrounding yourself with people who've got the skills that you don't, and the perceptions that you don't, I think is a very, very important lesson.
And also, I'm reminded it was Ian McClaskill, you said?
Ian McClaskill, yeah.
McClaskill. And how important it is for people who are watching this video now to remember, as leaders, don't forget that you need to reach down to the people that you're leading and say, look, you could be really good and do this bit, but work on this skill. Because he had a huge impact. Look, thank you, here you are. And all of them listening mustn't forget the impact they can make, the shadow they cast. And finally, what would be your sort of top tips for people to be more inspiring leaders? What would you share?
So I have a personal adage, which is ask for forgiveness, not permission. And it partly comes about through being a naughty boy, sort of wanting to sort of go out there and experiment. And I do think that we are in a society today where we risk, and I use the word deliberately, we risk actually de-risking too much. And so how do we encourage people to take appropriate risk? Use judgment, consult with others, but actually take appropriate risk and push boundaries for yourself, but also for others around you, in a way that you don't just cut them off if they get it wrong. You nurture and encourage. But if we don't take that risk, I don't think we really fully develop ourselves. And consequently, so it is that balance. It's not being cavalier at one end of the spectrum, and it's not being so cautious. I mean, there are times, obviously, if the scale of what you're dealing with has monumental impact, then of course you're going to be far more cautious. So often, if you see an email that comes in and you don't like it, don't respond to it. Sleep on it. Because you have instinctive reaction. But it is push yourself. But push yourself where there's that real purpose. And I think as we grow older, some people are lucky to have it younger. But as you really start to understand yourself as an individual and what motivates you and your purpose, you actually take some of that risk, use some of your skills, and take that forward.
Great. Well, Peter, thank you for your time. And once again, congratulations on your year as the Lord Mayor of London. A huge achievement by anybody's standards, and all the other things you're doing.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure seeing you again.
Very good.
Thank you very much.